What's something popular that you refuse to get into? Story 1. I'm a new mom and there's so many stupid mom trends right now, but one of them is the natural looking toys with really bland colors that are more aesthetic. They're toys. There's a woman I know through work who considers herself a bit of an influencer. She had her baby 9 months ago and everything she posts is the beige baby aesthetic. One morning before I went to a mummy group, I saw her post a photo of her baby wearing a matching tracksuit and bib in front of a boho wall hanging. Then 30 minutes later, she walks into the group with her son in a brightly colored onesie and carrying a plastic toy. Entire life is just for the gram. Agreed. I'm a new mom too. Sad to see people buying neutral pastel shade toys to match their aesthetic home decor. Babies see better when toys have bright contrasting colors. Your child is not an accessory or a doll. Just saying. Story 2. Man, my younger brother sports bets a ton and has been ultra successful, but I'm nervous about what happens when his luck turns. I won't touch that stuff. Some of these guys act like PhD students the way they study sports news, and even though I know a few of them at work who live and breathe sports and sports gambling, the best of them barely break even. You can imagine how much everyone else is losing. I went through a phase where I got way too into video games, stopped watching my hockey and NBA for like 10 to 15 years. Just now coming out of it and starting to watch sports more religiously again. My god, the commercials and the amount of sports betting commercials and old idols turned gambling shills is hugely disappointing. You didn't make enough in your $100 million career? You need to retire into pushing broke school janitors and tradesmen into full-time gambling degenerates too? My advice as a bookie is if you do bet, would be to treat it as an entertainment the same that you would going to dinner or a movie. It's not inherently a bad thing, but like other vices, it's easy for people to get in over their heads. I'm not heartless, so if I suspect someone has a problem, I'll impose low credit limits. Of course, this only does so much as they often just play with others. I'm against advertising gambling. I think it's irresponsible. Some people are able to treat it as entertainment and that's fine, but many cannot. It ruins whole families financially. It's an addiction, not just to the high of winning, but just to get out of debt. There's a reason for the saying the house always wins, and it's the same reason casinos are popping up. It's a very lucrative business for the casino, not for the bettors. Story 3. Celebrity worship. I can't stand it when someone talks to me about a celebrity's life. My roommate knows every single movie actor and singer and keeps up with their life 24/7. I refuse to go to the airport with him. Even watching a movie is difficult. I get reminded of every single actor's personal life every time they come out and what other shows or movies they star in. It's really weird when it's grown adults who completely idolize celebs and go through so much time and emotion to defend them. Like, I understand a 10-year-old idolizing Steph Curry or Giannis or whatever, but shouldn't you grow out of that stage? These people don't know you exist, don't pay your bills, and some would rudely brush you off if you tried to ask them for an autograph or pic. I remember in college seeing some guy wearing a Kobe shirt, and he wrote all over "Free Kobe" and "Kobe Innocent." I thought, well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. None of us were in that room, but this guy wrote it all over his shirt and also wore a hat that said it too. Or also those weirdos that sent death threats to the wife of a Golden State Warriors owner because Beyonce appeared to give her an angry look. And the way people get mad for criticizing them. Like, how can you even get mad at me saying stuff about a person who doesn't even know you exist? That's crazy. I learned recently about a term for this: parasocial relationships. It's where one person invests time, energy, and interest towards someone else, and the other person doesn't even know them. This could apply to celebrities, YouTubers, influencers, and gamers, anyone who is in the public eye. This could be harmless but annoying, and on the other end, dangerous and obsessive. Story 4. I can't believe the number of women and sometimes men walking around with artificially enlarged lips that look like they were stung by an army of wasps or were balancing sausages on their mouths. I remember seeing a woman who seemed to spit everywhere due to her incessantly enlarged lips. My younger cousin, as a poor college student, used part of her and her sister's financial aid for a boob job and lip injections. To say she's got a bad spending problem is an understatement. Implants aside, kid, those lip injections absolutely destroyed her natural beauty. I always thought she was the prettiest of all of us cousins. Her natural thin lips had so much charm. She has that natural California girl beauty, complete with freckles, very cute. I was always jealous. When I walked into her room and this sausage-lipped girl smiled at me, I thought I was seeing things, but I knew right away what she had done. I was really disappointed. She even casually told me how she had to go several times because the injector messed up, and you could tell. No more than 23 and she already looks like a sad Orange County wine mom. My favorite tweet about this is a woman saying she went to the doctor to get filler or Botox and asked them how many years younger she'd look. The response was basically, "You won't. You'll look like all the other 28-year-old girls who have had this procedure." Same as all the women in their 20s or 30s who get told by injectors that Botox is preventative. It isn't. You'll just end up using it and paying for it 10 to 20 years longer than women who start in their 40s. Maybe I'm biased, but when I look at a person and can tell they've had work done, it's all I can think about. It becomes what I identify with them, just being honest, and maybe that's not fair of me. Story 5. Pranking videos. A good prank has the pranked person laughing first. Too many people don't know how to prank properly. My 5-year-old's favorite prank is to swap the water in her dad's glass for Sprite, give it a stir to get rid of the bubbles, and then wait for him to take a drink, expecting water and getting sweetness instead. Except she starts telling him to have a drink straight away and insisting on it, so she gives it away. There was one I saw of a guy in an elevator who just randomly pulled down a map display and started presenting the weather. It was adorable. The sudden boardroom appears right before you exit the porta potty skit was awesome as well. Just some absurdist humor. No one gets hurt. These are examples of pranks I wouldn't mind seeing. The ones where they put trash cans on people's heads or do really mean things are awful to me. I get angry for these victims. Story 6. Elf on a Shelf. I refuse to have to come up with creative crap for 25 straight days until my kids no longer believe in Santa. So a few years ago at Christmas Eve, I was with my family and saw this little toy sitting on the counter, and my niece was right next to me. She was 8. I pick up this toy and say, "Oh, can you tell me about this toy?" And she looks at me and starts screaming and crying. I'm fairly sure suburbs of the city could hear it based on how badly she was crying. And it was like a light switch too. She went from being happy at the holidays to suddenly in an instant seeing me hold that toy, crying like somebody died. I'm just standing there like, what is happening right now? Suddenly my brother-in-law comes running over and says, No, it's okay. See, he doesn't live in this house. He can't affect the magic. And I'm just playing along without knowing what I'm playing along with yet at this point. I'm like, yeah, I don't have magic. I can't control the magic. What magic? And so I put the elf on the shelf back on the counter the way he was, and my niece instantly is relieved, instantly stops crying, and my sister assures her that me touching the doll didn't mean anything. I'd never heard of Elf on the Shelf. I just saw a toy at Christmas time. It was holiday themed. I assumed she had gotten to open one toy early and just wanted to play with my niece. My mom later explained that apparently Elf on the Shelf isn't allowed to be touched by anyone in the house because then it loses its magical properties that bring Christmas. And my brother-in-law was basically just trying to ease the situation and show her Christmas wasn't canceled because her uncle was an idiot. In one sense, I felt like the biggest jerk ever, and on the other, I was also feeling like it wasn't my fault. If you have a childless adult over your house and you have an elf on the shelf, you should clue them in on what the heck is going on as they get to your house. Hey, don't touch the elf on the shelf over there, it's Santa's spy that can't be moved. Something like that. I had no idea what was even happening even as it was happening. I just knew I suddenly did something very, very bad. We just hide it in a different spot every day of the month, and my son thinks he's alive, moving around when he sleeps. We don't do any of the other parts. My wife sets up elaborate scenes. She is really good at it. Like on Christmas morning, we had the elf on the shelf holding a little Hot Wheel as a prize for my son. Then we put it away after that and said he went back to the North Pole. It's not for everyone though. My wife also had me wear boots on Christmas Eve and act like I was walking out of the chimney over to the Christmas tree. Then she sprinkled powder sugar over my feet, so it looked like snowy footprints. Plus we keep all of the presents hidden until Christmas morning so my son goes to bed and there are no presents and he wakes up to a ton. We are on a mission to make everything in the world as magical as possible for our kid. That's how it should be in my opinion. The whole Big Brother elf is watching you to see if you're bad part is really creepy. I like the idea of being playful and creative with hiding it. The times I've seen it have all been about the elf getting caught in some sort of mischief, like ziplining across the living room with Barbie or something funny. Story 7. Chatting with AI characters. It's actually wild to experience a parasocial relationship from the inside. Like, I've never been on the receiving end, but after you read a bunch of papers by one author, you want to tweet to them about it, and you get no response. And then you remember, oh yeah, I don't actually know them. I'm sure there are more severe cases than that, but seeing my brain have the wrong expectations is weird. The fact that I've seen so many people just casually chatting with their Snapchat AI is so strange to me. Like, they literally learned from talking to them, and then everyone acts surprised why they know so much info about them. I guess it's the ultimate parasocial relationship, except it responds to you and learns from what you say to it. There's so much that could go wrong with that. It could be exploited very easily, in my opinion. Story 8. Smartwatches, particularly Apple. I have a number of watches, but the last thing I want is to get emails, calls, and texts on my watch. Granted, people use them for fitness, but I do not. That's what I used to think, until I got an Apple Watch. Yes, I get my texts, missed calls, and important emails delivered to my watch. Yes, that can be a distraction, but you know what's even worse? Opening up the phone, which is what I used to do. I used to check my phone every time it buzzed, or every free moment if I ostensibly turned off notifications to focus. Yes, I opened the damn thing to do just one thing, but before you know it, I'm on Reddit or Twitter or whatever. Not anymore. These days, I get a text delivered to my watch, read the first sentence of it, decide I'll handle it later, and go back to what I'm doing. It's actually been really helpful for staying in the moment. The biggest thing for me is how expensive they are, and since they're on your wrist, they're super easy to chip. I sort of have a smartwatch. It's a fitness band that is under $50 and has most of the main features. The main things I use it for are the time, date, and it can make my phone ring when I set it down somewhere and forget. When I first got it, I tried out getting texts on my wrist and sleep tracking and all the fancy features, but I kinda hate it. I get easily distracted by notifications, so this piques my interest. I could get an older model. My birthday is coming up. Wait, I thought this list was supposed to talk me out of doing popular things. Story 9. Fast fashion. Just because a piece of clothing was manufactured for the purpose of fast fashion doesn't mean that you are participating in it. If you actually use the clothing until it can't be used anymore, then there was nothing fast about it. You just bought and used a cheap piece of clothing. Fast fashion is about making clothing go out of style quickly, thus convincing people they need to buy new things to stay up to date. It's a social pressure created to convince people to buy more things they don't need. The clothes are cheap, sure, and it would be a lot better if things were made to last. But if you're using them until they're worn out, then by definition you're not engaging with fast fashion. You're just buying cheap clothing. Fast fashion might be the reason it's cheap, but you are not engaging in it. I haven't heard this term before, but the concept is familiar. I find it funny that I'm in the process of going through my clothes and deciding which to give away. Story 10. Wi-Fi appliances and whatever you call those Google Echoes or whatever. Voice assistants are a joke to most of us, but they actually are very beneficial for those with disabilities. If you were blind, you would rather ask Alexa or Siri to look something up, or would you rather fiddle with a keyboard and a screen reader on a website that might not even be properly optimized for accessibility? I myself dismissed Alexa as a joke until I had to work on creating Alexa skills for blind people as a university project, and that's where I came to appreciate the utility of these things for people with disabilities. I still wouldn't buy one for myself, but I'm glad they exist for people who need them. It's also great for older folks. My grandma is nearly 90 and technologically challenged. She has no interest in learning how to use a tablet or a computer, but she loves that she can ask Alexa to tell her a joke, what the weather is, to set a timer, etc. She often calls me just so that she can tell me the random question Alexa knew the answer to. This is why I'm happy that Alexa-type devices are prevalent. People who actually depend on them as accommodations for their disabilities don't have to be concerned about the service being discontinued. Story 11. I'm 20 and I hate big parties. I like little get-togethers with my friends, but large gatherings just aren't my thing. I'm at the age where it feels like everyone is doing it, but I just don't really like it. Doesn't help that I also don't like drinking or vaping. I'm 25 and I completely understand where you're coming from. It's hard when you're not into the big social scene when you're at that stage. A large portion of my friends seem to be incapable of hanging out unless there's alcohol and drinking games involved. I much prefer hanging out and playing board games or cards or Mario Kart with a smaller group of people. I'm right there with you. Granted, I'm much older, but even at your age, I couldn't stand parties. I'd say, hey, we're gonna have a party tonight at my apartment, and inevitably one person would show up and be like, dude, you said you were having a party. This is like a hangout. Give me 5 or 6 people hanging out, eating pizza, watching crappy movies, and that's my kind of party. Big parties? always have their place, usually a holiday or celebration like a graduation. But I'm one for the small gatherings as well. If it's too big of a group of people, you can't spend time with all of them. It breaks into small groups anyways. Story 12. Cheating on your partner. I was recently at a party and everyone was talking about that one time they cheated, and I was made to feel like an oddball because I hadn't cheated. But to me, not cheating is normal. How hard can it be to be a decent human being? You feel bored or want to get with someone else? Break up and get it over with. Why do people think, oh, I'm going to cheat and then fix stuff later? I know of a couple who are really good at the beginning. Then they went to live together and after a while their relationship became toxic. The guy ended up cheating, she got to know about it, and they started cheating on each other for like a whole year before deciding to break up. Like, what kind of life is that? I had an argument with two separate people on this subject, and they both told me that I was a bad person for not wanting to cheat or have a relationship with someone who could or did cheat on me, because in their minds that means I'm insecure and possessive, and I don't know real love. I think if I'm capable and not willing to cheat on someone, I have the right to ask the same of my partner. I want to date someone who thinks the same as me, not convinced or coerced someone into it. That seems impossible for some people to not cheat, so go be in a polyamory or open relationship with someone who thinks the same as you instead of betraying and hurting someone. Cheating does seem to be pretty common. Story 13. Astrology and things related to it. It's okay when it's just for fun and just seeing what the stuff says, but when people try to pass it off as real, I just can't deal with it. It's more annoying when it is right. I'm unfortunately in the sensitive and artsy category, as are a lot of people not born into late February and early March, and that's the only generic description of Pisces. I suspect I had childhood depression and it was passed off as Pisces are sensitive. All the descriptions are so broad and all-encompassing that most people match any month. It's frustrating people take them so seriously. I tried to tell my mom once that my younger sister might be developing anxiety issues, and she also passed that off with Pisces are sensitive thing. But when I had the same issues at that age, I was being stubborn. I used to believe that astrology was just the way some people tried to understand the world, but after all that, I'm kinda over it. At some point, it turns out to be a refusal to see what's in front of your own face. I really hope you were able to get help at some point. I have people in my life who believe in astrology and go to psychics. I let them talk. I smile and nod. It's just so general, anything can be described as true. I like the images though. I have a tattoo of my sign. Story 14. Minecraft. I have OCD. I know I would lose years of my life to the cubes. I just know it'd be like heroin to me, so I won't ever try either of them. I don't experience boredom in games, I found. I'd play Animal Crossing all day long. I will just walk around and fish for hours. I love collecting, hoarding really, resources. I'm such a hustler in games. I was pretty bad with Stardew Valley too, until I finally played long enough to chill out a little. At the very least, it has more of a day/night cycle than The Sims. It's so much easier to stop when you have that pause to let games save. Sims gives me way too much control over everyone and everything. I get so obsessed over it. Like sure, there is technically a point where all the Sims are sleeping, but that's morning task coordination time. I've lost some hours to gaming, but nowhere near this amount of time. It can be addictive. I was playing a role-playing game for too long one time and ended up feeling motion sick from the flipping and bouncing around. That's how hardy I am. Story 15. Ed Sheeran. His popularity mystifies me. I went to one of his concerts a while back and it was so good. At the start of the show, there was a circular screen obstructing the stage and it slowly raised to reveal him, except his mic wasn't working so there was no sound. A tech ran up and gave him a temporary mic while they found him a proper one. Ed explained the situation, then literally said, "Forget it, let's sing A-Team." The whole stadium sang with him. When they got him a proper mic, he told everyone that they were going to repeat the intro and that everyone had to act like they hadn't just seen him. He handled the situation really well, and it was honestly the best opening to a show I've ever seen. I'm going to be honest with you. I read Ed Sheeran's new album was getting rave reviews, that it's super vulnerable and the music is great. I just thought, not this guy again, I can't stand his music. Flash forward to me in a CVS picking up a prescription. There is no cell service and no Wi-Fi. Awful, right? This CVS plays the worst music. They play this new song I've never heard. I'm shocked. It's actually good. I'm thinking to myself, I wonder who this is. It's catchy, even on the first listen, and the lyrics are pretty good. Then I slowly realized, you know, this guy kind of sounds like Ed Sheeran, only he doesn't suck. Then it slowly dawns on me. This is Ed Sheeran. This is Ed Sheeran's new album that everyone says is great. What have I done? Who have I become? I start hating myself with the intensity of 1,000 suns. This is what people who study classics call a recognition scene. This is a roundabout way for me to say his new album is pretty good. I'm going to enjoy hearing it in CVS for the rest of my life. I don't feel one way or the other about Ed Sheeran. These stories just made me laugh. Story 16. Harry Potter. I know there's a massive fan base and I'm happy people have found something they resonate with, but the stories themselves just do not appeal to me. All the main characters are just so uninteresting. Never, ever introduce time travel into a franchise that's not totally about time travel. It was handled pretty poorly as just a fun thing, but without really considering the plot holes. 2 books later, she wrote in a scene that locks away the ability to time travel ever again, so at least she made an attempt at addressing it. Like many things in the series, it's just better to read it at face value and move on with the story. If you think too hard on any of it, things start to unravel a bit. I had a huge portion of my friend group insisting I should read Harry Potter. I would try, but put it down because I just couldn't get into it. They kept insisting, so I decided to make it fun for myself. I opened up the ebooks in a word processor and started replacing all the names of nearly all the major characters. I didn't read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I read Shaquille O'Neal in the Sorcerer's Stone. The first chapters imagining Shaq crammed into a cupboard under the stairs had me laughing, so I read the whole series that way. I was into Harry Potter lore back in the day and could probably still win a trivia contest. These criticisms and others I've come across are valid. The time travel issue, especially with the Cursed Child, is far-fetched. Well, everything in the Cursed Child is far-fetched, to be honest. Story 17. Anime. I just don't like it. Honestly, fair, as someone who likes anime. It's too dominated by teenage boys and young men who try to shove down every popular shonen or cringe romance anime down your throat because they expect everyone to like the same genre as them. If you look for stuff that caters to your own tastes, even if it's not mainstream, you'll find anime can be pretty good. If you try to listen to the majority though, then it's no wonder you don't like it. I hope you braced for impact. The anime people will take any opportunity to turn a conversation towards anime. Even when the original comment is about disliking anime, they'll shift into telling you why you don't like anime, which anime you might like, how it's a broad category and you have to try out a few. Then they'll start listing the ones they think you'll like, which will quickly morph into a discussion about why this one is better than that one, and before you know it, you're being inundated with an anime convention where your original point that you don't like anime is lost in space. Happens with Star Wars too. I don't know much about anime, but I'm curious if people in the comments will prove that they like to talk about anime and which ones are best. Please go ahead, let it all out. Story 18. Tattoos. My wife loves them and I think her ink is beautiful, but I'm too scared of needles to ever get one myself. Plus I'm super indecisive and can't think of anything I'd want on my body forever without second guessing myself and regretting it. Same. For people, it's their body and their choice, so I shouldn't have an opinion on it, but I feel like excessive ink still looks trashy. I've really tried to break this association because most of the young people today with 5 to 10 tattoos are nothing like the bikers and convicts of my youth. It doesn't help that there are a lot of bad tattoos. There are some really nice ones too, but there are a lot of trendy ones, and or the whole I just wanted another tattoo, so I thought about it for 10 minutes and got the infinity symbol on my wrist, or something. I have a bunch of tattoos, and when the time decides to not be nice to me anymore, I'm certain I wouldn't care about my tattoos. They'll be a reminder that I lived my life on my own terms, that I was free. I have tattoos. Yes, they can be expensive, and yes, they hurt a lot depending on where on your body you get them. I thought for a long time about each design and was very particular about who I chose to do them. They are a part of me like no other thing and express who I am and what I like. I understand when people don't want to have them on themselves. It's not for everyone, but you can't deny its popularity. Story 19. Everyone my age is playing pickleball, so much so that they canceled my basketball league to make more space for the pickleball league. I was a big pickleball hater, as me and my mother are huge tennis fans and were both very skeptical, since she works at the local pro shop and saw the pickleball craze begin firsthand. Then my best friend, who has never had an interest in tennis, invited me to play pickleball and I completely changed my mind. It will never replace tennis for me, but I loved being able to share it with others as a not so physical tool to improve my tennis game with some friends who I would have otherwise never gotten to share some fun times with. Just like everything, if you do it with the right people, you might enjoy it. I hate pickleball with a passion. I play tennis, and oftentimes these groups of pickleball players would literally hog the courts all day, literally 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. When I bring up court etiquettes, saying players have time limits, they will refer to people in their own group as next in line. So my partner and I would go out early before the group arrives. They say they're meeting their group at 10 a.m. I tell them that's great, we just started. What do? They come onto the courts and start getting set up. I politely tell them to please wait outside, and I'm made out to be the rude one. These people don't even have permits or reservations from the city. They just show up in swarms. Pickleball is a combination of tennis, badminton, and ping pong played with a net between the players. I had to look up the description, even though I've heard the term many times. It seems like it's a pretty easy game to start playing and not too strenuous. According to a couple of these people, it seems to be spreading like an infestation and choking out the ability to play their own games. That part is no good. Story 20. Pretty much everyone I know at my age collects Funko Pops, and I don't get it. I will admit I own one that was gifted to me, and I like it because no other figurine exists of this person to my knowledge. My friend often sells hers over time for around £60 each, which seems insane to me. This is why. You can commonly get Funko Pops of random characters who otherwise only show up in the background of art on the box of other characters' merch. Also, that they can retail for $8 when not on sale. On sale, you can get them for like $5, so people who wouldn't go for collectibles normally can get a whole set of characters for less than the cost of a single recast of a mediocre proper figurine off of Wish, let alone the cost to buy a decent figurine retail, which is, again, assuming it both exists and can be bought unscalped. They're not popular because of the weirdos who buy dozens on the secondary market for 10 times the price. They're popular because they're dirt cheap, offer a wide array of characters, and are available basically everywhere. I'm of the mindset of letting people like the stuff they like. That said, I'm a Funko collector. I don't collect them all, as I tend to gravitate mostly towards Disney and female comic book heroes and the nostalgia kick. But like I said, I know they aren't everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. I feel like there's always some collectible version of your favorite characters or shows. This is just the most popular one right now. Their eyes bother me though, and the square heads. Story 21. Credit card debt. It's not fun, but you should be using credit cards if you have any discipline, meaning paying it off every month is not overspending. You're missing out on rewards if you live in the US. Yeah, you can get some killer cash back deals. It's funny to think about. When I was broke and struggling, it's hard to catch a break. After years of work, I'm financially successful and have a decent credit score. Now all these jerks are trying to give me as much free stuff as possible. I got a $219 cash back credit on my credit card that's hooked up to my utility bills. So I literally got money for just paying my bills. The interest rate doesn't matter because I pay it off almost monthly, but after a year of using it, I get money for using it. Nothing makes sense. I wish I had known that you don't pay interest if you make your payments on time and in full. I would have gotten a card sooner to build up my credit score. Just pay it off every month or every payday would even be better. I think many people should change their mindset on credit cards and treat it like a debit card/cash. Get the benefits of rewards, but don't fall into that rabbit hole of debt. Pay it in full every month. It takes discipline. When it comes to purchases, ask themselves, can I pay this off or do I have the funds for this? Personally, I can't stand paying interest, especially when some cards have like a 25+% APR. Pay in full every month and you don't pay interest fees. This is great advice for starting out. The difficulty is when you're behind playing catch up. The interest really piles up. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story that you would like to share, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.